Happy Monday. It's a brand new week. Welcome, everyone, to the Media Row podcast. I'm Justin Miller, your host. We are live on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. Go ahead, check us out on all the social media pages as well for show highlights afterwards, interviews, cool things like that. But welcome, everyone. It's a brand new week. It was a really good week for me, at least, being a Drake Bulldog fan. Both the women and men played well. And then you had my Ohio State Buckeyes going to the national title game. We'll get to that as well. We don't need to talk about the NFL playoffs. I don't think anyone that mattered really played. That's why Seattle took it off. But no, we'll get to the NFL playoffs as well later this week. Today we have a busy show trying to get through all that happened in the Missouri Valley, as well as go through just what happened over last week with the Drake men and the Drake women. Women continue to just be consistent, and the men are slowly figuring things out. And some cool, just backstories that I found out and that I was able to experience during the Evansville game that we'll get to as well. But make sure to follow us on all social media platforms. Follow us on Twitter at Media Row Pod. Follow me at Justin_C Miller. TikTok at Justin Miller on air. YouTube at Media Row Pod. So all that good stuff. We'll make sure to post it so you can see it. You don't have to hear me keep talking about it. So let's just get into it. So the Drake Bulldogs, for the men's side of things, we'll go there first. They are figuring things out. Now, it may not be pretty all the time, as we saw in the first half against Evansville, but all the concerns that people were having during that 2-game losing streak, McCollum is addressing. And he's been kind of forced to address the point guard stuff with Isaiah Jackson still banged up, still not playing. Against Evansville, he started, and clearly that left ankle being wrapped up and has a big black brace on his left ankle. Played a little bit, played about 9 minutes in that game, 6 minutes in that game, only took 2 shots, and then sat the rest of the second half. He was on the medical bike behind the bench. So don't know his status. Asked coach about it after the game, and really coach just said he's not 100%, and they're just going to take it day by day. But outside of that, he has been addressing the issue of, playing the same 5 guys for the entire game, not getting a lot of balance with the team. And Bennett Sturt said in the post-game press conference how it was a concern, and now he's loving how Isaiah Howard's been playing. Tavion Banks continues to just be a force in the paint. And Nate Ferguson, too, he may not light up the stat lines, but he gives those guys a break, and he brings experience to a team that came in with not a lot of Valley play experience, as they came from Northwest Missouri State. But Coach McCollum is just doing what he needs to do, and it's been fun to watch this team figure out their issues and try to solve them. So Drake beat Evansville 63-40. Like we said, it wasn't all pretty. That first half, man, it has become a trademark almost for this Drake team to start off slow and ugly. Drake, 28.6% from the field in the first half. That is their season lowest in any half. And like I said, it's become a consistent and not one you want, because against Murray State just a week prior was their lowest of the season, where they shot 38% from the field against Murray State. So that I don't know how you clean that up too, because it's not like Coach McCollum doesn't have these guys ready, and it's not like Bennett Sturts and Mitch Muscari are, purposely not mentally there. I think the only thing is, and what we saw in the second half, is guys just need to look for their shot and get confident with their shot quicker. And I thought, honestly, Bennett Sturts, he made the first layup of the game. And I thought right there, okay, Bennett is back because he had to get a layup back after being held scoreless almost. Only points coming against Bradley at the free throw line, but didn't make a single field goal shot. So I thought once he hit that was going to light the spark, but it was bad. It was hard to watch. But like I said, this team figures it out. It is not going to be an ugly entire game. They are going to figure it out, and they will scrap their way into a victory if they have to. They've proven that. But luckily, that didn't have to happen. I thought the turnaround was in the first half when Mascari hit a three-pointer kind of right in front of the press row near the kind of logo. It was a deep three, something Mitch is used to. But I thought that was the turnaround because he hit it. They got a turnover. Talking with Coach and Bennett, they didn't seem like that was the turnaround. They just all had this mental awareness of it's got to happen. We have to put the foot down to the gas. So I thought it was the Mascari three-pointer, but after that, whatever Coach said and whatever the players said, they did put their foot down to the pedal because in the second half, it was a totally different story. Drake shot 51.9% from the field, and they held the Aces scoreless from 2:35 left in the first half to 9:08 in the second. It was crazy. And they were up by 20 at one point, and Tommy Birch from the Des Moines Register was sitting next to me. And I looked at Tommy and I said, doesn't it feel like it should be worse than 20 points? But it's just the style of play Drake has. They're a slower offensive team. So it felt way worse than a 20-point lead at the time. But McCollum, again, just went into halftime, and Bennett Sturt said he was surprisingly calm. But he made the correct adjustments. And number one, like I said earlier, players looked for their shots. So this Drake team, they just continue to find ways to win. And against Evansville, they made the adjustments, and you could tell McCollum and assistant coaches were on Bennett early in the game for not looking for a shot. And then second half, a completely different Bennett Sturts, a more aggressive, a more confident Bennett Sturts, the one we're more used to seeing. And then what I love what McCollum did in this game was he had guys like Combs, and when Isaiah Jackson started in the first half, they had guys like them bringing up the ball instead of Bennett. And I think that was a way to try to figure out what defenses were doing to Bennett to slow him down after he didn't make a single field goal shot against Bradley. And it worked. It was able to get him in spacing. It was able to get him rolling off of ball screens without the ball and get him open. And so I liked that strategy by Ben McCollum. And it just opened up more opportunities for Bennett Sturts to score. And then in the second half, McCollum just continues to address the minutes. And he's more fluent, it seems like, and more efficient when it comes to his substitutions. 3 in, 3 out. Getting Bennett rest when he needs it. Getting Mitch rest when he needs it. They're not playing the full 40 minutes anymore. And it's a huge help, though, when you have the bench improving the way they are and the bench playing the way they are. The Drake bench outscored Evansville 27-6. It marked the second straight game where the bench has put up 20-plus points. Prior to that, they only did it twice throughout the whole season. So you are seeing a bench that is starting to know their role and take it to a different level. Isaiah Howard, I think every show we're going to talk about Isaiah Howard from now on because he just brings a different spark. He goes out there, and Isaiah Howard, the true freshman, plays nearly 12 minutes, shot 3 of 5, hauls in 2 rebounds, both of them offensive. We've talked about how good he is at crashing the offensive glass, but 7 points. And then on top of Tavion Banks, who put up 11 points, shot 7 of 8 at the free throw line when the team themselves couldn't shoot a free throw. And Tavion Banks plays 21 minutes. That helps out a ton with the starters like Cam Manyow, who only played 19. And so you are having guys like Isaiah Howard and Tavion Banks. They are no longer just role players. They are game changers. This team, if they can continue to build depth, they are going to be scary because they're already dangerous right now. But we've seen how teams have been able to attack Bennett as the season has gone on, and hopefully having different guys bring up the ball will kind of lessen how teams have been able to hold Bennett Sturts. Get Mitch Biscari more confident in his shot, get him better looks. But you open up things for Mitch Biscari and Bennett by getting more production from your bench. And that is what Drake has done of late, and that is why they're on a 2-game winning streak. That is why they were able to beat Bradley on the road. And that's what gives me confidence when they have to go on the road again this week against a really good Indiana State team. So it is going to be an interesting couple of weeks to see how this Drake team continues to adjust. I just love how Drake, no matter what, they just continue to scrap. It is going to be hard to blow this team out. Murray State could have done it, but Drake was able to find ways to continue to put up points in a day that was really hard to shoot. Against Bradley, Bradley started off quick. Drake started off slow, but Drake continued to find a way defensively to get turnovers, and then the bench players, of course, putting up 40 helps. This team just continues to find a way. So the Drake Bulldogs, they improve to now 13-2. Drake, a team that is going to cause issues if they continue to just adjust. So you have the Drake Bulldogs now at 14-2 overall. They're 8-1 at home. That only one loss to Murray State. 2-1 on the road. They've won 2 straight. They continue to just find ways. But looking at the Missouri Valley Conference men's basketball standings as a whole, it continues to be wide open. You have Bradley, 5-1 in the conference, 14-3 overall. 4 teams tied at a 4-2 conference record. Murray State, after that game against Drake, they have just found something offensively. Again, shooting over 50% against a good defensive team in Valpo. They are going to be scary if they keep this up. And so Murray State, they've won 3 straight. You have Belmont, who's won 3 straight. And that's a team much like Murray State. If they can hit the 3, it's going to be really hard for any team to beat them. Against Belmont early on this season, Drake held them, and their defense really imposed their will on Belmont, and that game was not as close as I thought it would be. When Drake has to travel to Belmont, I think that's going to be a different story. That's going to be a lot closer of a game than it was in Des Moines. And then you have UNI and Drake. They're still figuring things out as they're 4-2. UNI bounces back after a tough loss to Murray State at home. They go on the road. They have another tough battle that goes down to the buzzer. This time it goes the Panthers' way, though. Against Illinois State, you have Anderson, who I've raved about, go coast to coast and lay the ball in and wins the game against Illinois State. Illinois State, on that play, you watch it, no one guarding the paint. So you have Anderson, who's 6'6". There's not a single player for the Redbirds I think over 6'2", that's remotely close to being able to protect the rim, to protect the paint. I mean, it looked very easy for Anderson to go coast to coast. So you have you and I figuring things out. Drake, who plays Indiana State this weekend, a game on ESPNU, which was announced. Indiana State has lost 2 in a row. They're 4-3 at home, 3-3 on the road, 3-3 in the conference, 9-8 overall. That's a team that I'm still afraid of as a Bulldog fan come Saturday, because this is a team that it went into overtime with Bradley and lost. It's a team that has caused issues for a lot of Valley teams so far this season. Beat Murray State, who is on fire. It played Ohio State close at the start, but then ended up losing by 20. But that's a game that I think the scoreboard looks worse than when you're watching it, what it actually felt like. So this is an Indiana State team that can cause issues. And then, of course, Drake this week will play Illinois State on Wednesday, like we said, who just lost to UNI. So Drake, continue to just adjust, continue to get help from your bench, and McCollum, just keep doing your thing. The only concerns I had with that win over Evansville was really just the slow start again. I know Drake is finding ways to win, and I've raved about how I like how they're scrappy. But when you go up against a team like Bradley again, if you start slow, I think they jump on it better than they did last week. Against a team like Murray State, we saw how Drake was able to crawl back in, but if they just would have hit a couple of more shots in the first half, that's a totally different feeling game. And so it's just, yes, you can win. They've proven you can win with slow starts, but no one likes it. I know Coach McCollum doesn't want it. The players don't want it. So it's just igniting that confidence into your star players early and let them be confident to take their shot. Coach McCollum said it perfectly in the postgame press conference after Evansville when talking about, I asked him, did you say something to Bennett and the guys that made them more confident in the second half and look for their shot? And he said how he had talked to Bennett earlier this season when he took a 3 and he said, hey, that's a bad time to shoot that 3, and kind of got on him for it. And he goes, I don't know if that made him now concerned that I'm going to be upset if he shot the ball. He goes, you can shoot the ball 100 times. I won't be upset. And so he said that to Bennett, and now we saw how Bennett played in that second half. And I wonder if that's going to turn around mentally for Bennett and the star guys and Mitch and Cam, who has struggled underneath the basket. And then you put, those guys playing at their best on top of what we're seeing from Banks and Howard. Dangerous. And then the only other issue I had was just free throws. And this bothers me with every Division I team. If you're a Division I team, put in your free throws. And Tommy Birch asked Coach McCollum, he said, Coach, are free throws, I guess, going to be part of the practice routine now? Are you going to focus more on that, I guess, this coming week? Because Drake shot of the game against Evansville, they shot 13 of 22 from the free throw line, 59%, missing 9 free throws, and their season high was 11 free throws. So if it wasn't for Tavion Banks putting in 7 of 8, but yet Cam Mannion go 3 of 8, 2 of 3 from Abreu, 0 of 2 by Nate Ferguson. Just some easy points. And in a valley where it can be anyone's game, in a conference where it's going to be tough, those are must-haves. And Coach McCollum said if anyone knows a free throw coach, they're hiring. So he kind of joked about how free throws are a thing. Those guys practice every day. And you're either just going to make them or you're going to miss them. And sometimes it's just not your night. Now, I will put out my invitation to Coach McCollum as I was the Bulldogs basketball camp Outstanding Camper Award in 2013. I did win the free throw contest as well when I was like 13 years old. So that medal is at my dad's. So I if you want me to, coach, and this is just me being funny, of course. If you want me to, I can come and shoot some baskets with the guys. So, Coach McCollum, of course, he jokes around with the team too. So the free throw line thing, it's concerning at the moment, but we've seen this team also shoot from the free throw line very well. You're not going to see Bennett Sturtz not even attempt a free throw very often. So I think that number is easily going to improve. It was just a kind of a shock watching it because at home against the Evansville, you don't expect it. So Drake improves to their second straight victory over Evansville. A good victory. They win by 23, and I said that was just going to be huge for their confidence if they can kind of just easily separate themselves from Evansville. While it wasn't easy in the first half, it was in the second half. So that just sets up for now Wednesday, where they take on Illinois State at home. That should be fun. And then Saturday, a primetime game at 5 o'clock against Indiana State. Moving on to the Drake women, a team, talk about being consistent. This is your team. The Drake Bulldogs right now win 9 straight. It's the third time in Coach Pullman's career she's won 9 straight games coaching the Drake Bulldogs. 19th straight Missouri Valley Conference win, going back and including Missouri Valley Conference tournament games. And they took down a Bradley team 67-63 on the road. That game a little closer than I thought it would be, but they bounced back and blew out Illinois State 85-64 on the road as well. And in that Illinois State game, watching that is why Drake is going to be special. That is why we've been so hyped on Pullman's team, because their balance and their depth is legit. It is the deepest in the Valley. I will say that. I know Murray State has a really good starting lineup. I think Drake is the deepest team in the Valley. And that game against Illinois State proved it. 6 players scoring 10-plus points. Dinenbeer leading the team with 18. And when you just have so many good players in a depth like that, no wonder why you put up 25-plus assists again. And no wonder why this offense just continues to be unstoppable, it feels like at times. It seems like Drake, the only way they get stopped is by themselves, committing fouls, committing turnovers, like we saw in the first half against Valpo the last time they were at home. That's the only, teams aren't slowing down Drake. It's Drake that slows down themselves. It's how it comes off. So the Drake Bulldog women, the balance and depth that they have is why I think they win the Missouri Valley Conference for a third straight season, and why I think they could make noise come in March. Now, I'm not saying they're going to be a Sweet 16 team or further. I just think it's been a while since Drake's even won in the first round of the NCAA tournament. I think they could do that. If I'm a Power 5 team, I would not want to play Drake. Not at all. After how they played Iowa close, how they played Iowa State real close. I mean, they almost have a win in Hilton against Iowa State. And then they almost beat a top 25 team in Iowa. This is a team that I would not want to be seeded against come March. So the Drake women, They improved to 11-5, 5-0 in the conference now, and this sets up for a really fun week for women's hoops. So on Thursday, the Drake Bulldog women take on Belmont, a team that has won 3 straight. And then on Saturday, the Drake women, they are at home against Murray State, a team I just mentioned who might have some of the best starters, might have one of the hardest starting lineups that Drake has faced all season long, with multiple players over 12-plus points. So you have Drake at 5-0. You have 3 teams at 4-1. UNI, Murray State, Belmont, Missouri State, Missouri State, and Belmont both with 3 game-winning streaks. And it just sets up this week. I can't wait for some Valley basketball. And I'm trying to get Hunter Phillips, the play-by-play voice for Drake, to come on tomorrow for the show. And we just do a Drake women's basketball kind of like just all show long. Just talk about how great this team has been and what is their ceiling. So I'll make sure to put out a social media post if we do get them so it can promote, because right now as we record this, I haven't heard back from Hunter, but he's always good at getting back, so do expect something. But just, man, what a week for Pullman. And I think she loves these kind of weeks. I don't think you shy away from it whatsoever. It's a big week, big test, but you come out with both wins. They're at home. And you've been really good at home this season. You win them both at home, and you have now really put some pressure on the Valley to catch up to you. And you've separated yourself. And Drake has handled, they've had this target on their back for a while. They're not slipping through the cracks against anyone. And they are living up to it. They are living up to the target on their back. And that's always really good to see as a fan. So the Drake Bulldog women, they take on Belmont Thursday in Des Moines and then Murray State on Saturday. I will be at both of those games. Make sure to follow along for thoughts and coaches and player interviews as well. Finishing up today's show, I'm wearing the Ohio State sweatshirt for a reason, because they went to are going to the national title game in what a first drive touchdown for Ohio State. I'm thinking, all right, here they go. It's going to be a high-scoring game. And nearly a ugly second half, but luckily Jack Sawyer causing that fumble against Ewers after some really questionable play calls by Texas at the goal line sends Ohio State to the national title game against Notre Dame. But we'll break down and preview that game. We have plenty of time to do that. So I'm not going to go into like stats and, who I think is going to win just yet. While I think you guys know where I may lean before next week. But I'll just say this. No matter what happens next Monday, the storylines of Ryan Day needs to go have to be washed away. They're done. It's been played out. And hand up accountability. After they were embarrassed against Michigan on national TV, I was one of those people that started to lean that way of, man, you better perform against Tennessee at home in the first round of the playoffs. And I thought those storylines should be washed away if he did that. I just said it's going to get louder. And it's going to be hard to escape if they lost to Tennessee. Not only did they crush Tennessee at home, they went on to crush Oregon, and then he has them in the national title game after beating Texas. This is the toughest road of any team that has gotten this far into the playoffs this season. And I haven't seen a full 180 from a team after such an emotional loss and where the media is hounding you, ever. I've never seen this kind of turnaround from a team. The weak storylines of Ryan Day are gone. He can't beat Michigan. I think next year if he loses to Michigan next year, I will be really shocked. I'll be really shocked. But I think Notre Dame is going to be really tough. Notre Dame is going to be crazy tough. That was the one team I really didn't want to play because Marcus Freeman has had the same battle attitude that Ryan Day has had throughout this playoffs. And I've really liked Marcus Freeman lately. So it's going to be hard. If I'm Notre Dame, I'm just doing wheel routes because Ohio State couldn't stop wheel routes against Texas. Sure, the one wheel route touchdown that put Texas on the board first, there was multiple holds on Texas, but regardless, if you don't get the calls, there should still be a defender at least somewhere in the vicinity, but there wasn't multiple times on those wheel routes to tight ends or running backs. So if I'm Notre Dame, Marcus Freeman, I'm doing that. And then screw it, bomb it deep. Ohio State secondary is their weakest link. And I don't know how it is because we see these guys get drafted into the NFL. But year after year, I always scratch my head going, I don't see why people like this Ohio State secondary. And they're one of the most penalized secondaries. Burke gets burned and will either hold. Same with multiple guys in that backfield. So that's just kind of my quick take on the Ohio State mayhem that has happened these past few weeks. Really excited for that Notre Dame Ohio State game come next Monday, but definitely excited for the Missouri Valley Conference games and women's basketball games, men's basketball games happening this week. So make sure to follow along on all social media platforms for coaches interviews, player interviews throughout this week. Drake men, they play Wednesday. They take on Illinois State. Then you have the women taking on Belmont. And then Saturday, Drake men on the road against Indiana State at 5 on ESPNU. And Drake women at home against Murray State for a night game. So should be a really fun week. Thank you again so much. Real quick, before we finish out today's show, I mentioned how there was a few cool just moments after the game Saturday against Evansville that I just wanted to shed light on. And I think social media has done a good job already. But so, Drake superfan, you have Taryn, who is a young boy, and met him briefly a few weeks ago. But you have Taryn, who is a diehard Drake Bulldog fan. And he wears the white button-up with the blue tie, just like Coach McCollum. And videos on social media surfaced of after the game, Coach McCollum walking up to Taryn and talking with him, players talking with him. And that is so cool by any coach or players. But I think it hits home because I did the same thing. I remember staying back and, getting Josh Young's autograph. And then I remember in 2013, after senior night, staying back with Jordan Daniels, who was the small point guard who transferred from Boston College to play for Giacoletti with Drake. And he was he would come off the bench to fill in for Richard Carter. And my dad and I, we stayed after and we got all the players' autographs and talked to the coaches and stuff like that. It was awesome. But Jordan Daniels stayed back and we talked to him and his family for like a good 10 minutes or so. It was one of the coolest things. And so it just warmed my heart seeing that Saturday and then talking with his mom. And his mom was so excited that the players and the fans have been so welcoming. And then everyone on social media just loving it. One of my favorite comments was, I think the mom of Jake Bren, who is a friend of the show, Channel 5 sports director. She mentioned how this is how it all started for Jake as a kid, as growing up as a Iowa State fan. So it's just a really cool thing to see. And I don't think, sometimes we get caught up in, the stats and all that, which I do, and I love it. But it is really cool to see the backstories and see the behind the scenes stuff like that of, there was no TV people there covering the Drake Evansville game. So it was cool that the mom was able to capture it, put it on social media, and it was just awesome. And I had to get that in there before, and hopefully we see Taryn and more fans like that coming to Drake and filling the Knapp Center. I love how McCollum, he might be the most animated coach I've seen at Drake in a long time. He pumps up the crowd. He lets players know when he's upset. He lets players know when he's happy too. And I love it. He's so fun to watch. He's just so animated. He doesn't hide any of his emotions. But so that will do it for our show today. Drake plays on Wednesday. Make sure we'll follow along for that. Tomorrow, plan is to have Hunter Phillips on the show to talk about the Drake women and the success they're having. Make sure to tune in and follow on all social media platforms. We will see you guys tomorrow at 2 o'clock.